Welcome back to this In Search of Kizomba video series. So in this video, so in the earlier video we saw like how the energy between the Angolan, like the Angolan Kizomba and the Cape Verdean variant of Kizomba, how they were so different. And I just wanted to point out there is a difference, and we have to acknowledge that, and try and from there on, well, let's try and understand why there is this difference. So now in this video, I few weeks back, I watched this video thanks to this lady Eddy Beach. I believe she is an American, and this is she's interviewing Eddy, who's one of the pioneers of Kizomba. So let's go ahead and watch. And Eddy puts into perspective some very important things, which we'll watch and then try and understand like what exactly how exactly Kizomba started and stuff like that. And after that, we'll go and have a look at this Kizomba versus Passada information on Eddy's website. It also has some insight onto how Kizomba started and all that. So let's watch it. Like, I'm not going to watch the whole video because it's like almost an hour long. We'll just watch it like for first few minutes, and then we'll try and understand what it is.
Country, which is not Angola. Could you tell me how you were introduced to Kizomba and Semba? Was it when growing up, or how did you find out about the music? What music it was? When did you start dancing?
Okay, so just to be clear, there is a misunderstanding that Kizomba is mainly between Angola and Cape Verdean. It's not right. Okay. People talk more about Angola and Cape Verdean because initially when they start teaching it was mainly Cape Verdean instructors and Angola instructors.
Okay.
Like we have been saying all the time, it doesn't matter if we call it.
And I have a question, I'll just post my questions like as and when I remember them, otherwise I'll forget. I just don't want to forget it. So here when Eddy says initially when it started there were only Cape Verdean or Angolan instructors. So why is that? That is a question I've been having, because most of the first generation Kizomba instructors, what we know, what we see, what we watch videos of, are all mostly Cape Verdeans. Even more than Angolans, I'm seeing a lot of Cape Verdean dancers, the first generation Kizomba dancers. So that's something I want to point out, and I'm not sure like why it is. Let's go ahead, because if Kizomba, as they say, evolved from Semba, Cape Verdeans don't have Semba at their home, but still Cape Verdeans remain one of the first, some of the most famous Kizomba instructors around the world, first generation ones, as Helios Santos points out in one of the other videos. We'll watch that later. As of now, we'll continue this.
Passada and then Kizomba, yes, Kizomba is from Angola, but I was raised dancing Passada. Okay. The same way, some people from Mozambique also, some people from Santo Tomé. So the thing is, you get to know things because of the number of instructors you have. Initially, when they start teaching, it was mainly Cape Verdeans and Angola. So naturally, people talk more about Cape Verdean and Angola. But no, in Guinea-Bissau, everyone dances Kizomba also. Obviously, we don't call it Kizomba, we call it meia batida. Meia batida means half beat.
Okay.
Because beat for us is Zouk. So everything that is mixed with Zouk, we call it half beat. And we used to call it Passada 1-2, which is the basic you do, based on 1-2. Yeah. But I was raised in dancing Kizomba. I was introduced to Semba later because obviously Semba is not from Cape Verdean, it's from Angola, it's not from Guinea also. But the fundamentals of what we use to teach Kizomba, I grew up dancing it.
And it's also danced at family parties and reunions?
Same setup. We have the birthday parties, we have any party you have, always end up in dancing. So it's I see a lot of conversation between Cape Verde and Angola, and then when we say something, it's no. The same thing. As a matter of fact, Cape Verde, because I'm half Cape Verdean also. If you go to Cape Verde, you will not see anyone dancing.
Okay.
Because dancing Passada, I mean. Okay. You see people dancing, but it's not really into the culture. It's mainly outsiders of Cape Verde, the Cape Verdean that lives outside, that do bring all these arguments about. But yes, Angola, when you watch video, you will see children dancing Kizomba. You can see that that country is where people breathe the dance. If you go to our country and you don't see children.
Now, I'm not sure if that is entirely true, because, say for example, okay, let's, because I've seen a lot of YouTube videos that where Cape Verdeans dance Kizomba. So I'll show an example, because there is a very famous. Okay, maybe I believe I've saved it here somewhere. Okay, now this was shot somewhere in Sal, Cabo Verde. Okay, this was shot, like, this was uploaded in 2008 of November, but as the title says, I believe it was recorded in 2007 of maybe November, I guess. Okay, let's 7 or 8, doesn't matter. Let's just watch. Okay, so now this is one. Let me go ahead and check if I have something else. No. So 5. That is 2006. Let's see if this is Kizomba or what. So 6, 7, we have 2008. We have 2008 and 9. We have 2009. No. So yeah. So what my point is, Kizomba was being danced like in Cape Verde. What Eddy says, like, is not entirely true, but let's continue.
Doing it, you understand, because every country has the main dance. The main dance in my country is Gumbe. But we all have, most of African countries, Mid, West, East, South, we have something common. We have a huge love for Zouk and Kompa. And that was actually what put us together. This is why the name Palop is a very strong name among our community, because after the decolonization, you have the migration happening from Africans going to the colony country. And as in Portugal, Portuguese never saw us as Angolan or Cape Verdean or Guinea. They saw us as African. Doesn't matter. So we had our clubs where we had something that could have all of us together, which was Zouk and Kompa. And we used to dance Passada in it. And before this commercialization of Kizomba, we really didn't care. Obviously, as we used to dance Passada, and when we see Angolans with more ginga, with more technicality, we try to copy. It's normal. When you see something that you like more, you try to follow.
Okay. Now, one more thing here. So, Eddy says something very important here. So, even before Kizomba became commercial, he says they used to dance Passada for Kompa and Zouk. Now, this is a very, very, very important information. So, this proves that the Palop countries, they already were dancing Passada even before Eduardo Paim came up with his music, this Kizomba genre of music. If you guys don't know who Eduardo Paim is, that's another video. We'll look into that. We are going to like dig into everything we need to about this Kizomba thing. So to brief you, we'll have a detailed video about that later, about all kinds of music that come under the Kizomba umbrella. For now, let's just remember something like Eduardo Paim is like the creator of the genre called Kizomba. Kizomba is nothing but like an Angolan Zouk, if you can say. And Zouk is originally from the French Caribbean. And this Angolan Zouk was created by Eduardo Paim using Zouk and some elements of Zouk and Kompa and Semba. So he mixed all of these music to create a Kizomba, the genre called Kizomba. Now, what Eddy says is, so even before the Kizomba music was in place, they used to dance Passada for Kompa and Zouk, which is which I'm glad that he said that, because this proves that the Cape Verdeans, this gives us some kind of what do we call it? This some kind of like a perspective, as in Cape Verdeans and the other Palop countries, other than Angolans, could have created Kizomba as what it is today by improvising on Passada. You know what I'm trying to say? Say, for example, what I mean here is, let's open MS Paint again. So Eddy here says, see, there's this thing called Passada, and there's this thing called Semba. Okay, now on a technical scale, right? say from 0 to 10. This is just uses like the three basics. Say this safe, this is 3, and say Kizomba is 8. Semba is 8. Semba is a very, very highly technical dance, as we all agree, and this was mastered by the Angolans using the same basics, which goes to say they took Passada to a next level and created Semba. Now what I'm trying to say is these Palop countries, they all had I don't know in what year or whatever, I'm not sure that the Passada was brought into these Palop countries, but what I'm trying to say is the Kizomba what we have now may not be as technical as Semba, but it is a little bit more technical, say somewhere around 5. Okay, it could have. What the theory about the Angolan theory says, these Angolans, they just slowed down to create Kizomba. What I'm trying to say is these Cape Verdeans or whoever, the Guinea-Bissau, they just improvised and created Kizomba. Dumb down. By dumb down, I don't mean like dumbing down, as in like adapting, we can say. Right? So this is like my theory. I'm not sure if this is like this. I'm not saying this happened. I'm saying this also could have happened. You're with me? Okay, now let's continue.
But that's it. There is no, oh, it's really from Cape Verde, oh, it is from Angola, but it was very common in the Palop community. And the common thing in all of them is Portugal. Passada is a Portuguese word. It's not Angolan word, it's not Cape Verdean word, it's not Guinean word. It means stepping. Okay, so every time you're stepping, obviously people can use it to and give it a different meaning. Like today when we listen to the word virgule, the first thing coming in your mind is a circle. Virgule is comma. It's literally comma, so there is no rotation there. It's just because their name then was added into a technical stuff, so people now perceive that every time you speak about virgule means a rotation. Yes, technical on the desk. So Passada means steps. And the basic 1, basic 2, and basic 3, and basic and virgule and rotation, they are universal basic. They are not Kizomba, they are not tango, they are, because you can find in tango, you can find in bachata, you can find in song.
Universal for every dance?
Yes, every couple dance. Okay, because the common thing in all of them was colonization. What we do, because there is also a lot of misinformation of how people perceive Africans. The main thing is, oh, African people love to party. They start partying from 8 p.m. and they go till 8 a.m. That is, in fact, it's not part of our culture. It was imposing culture. Because if you live in our country before 75, you had curfew times. Yes.
Oh wow.
So
you could party all night.
Yes. So during the curfew time, if I invite you to come to my house, there is time of curfew, you need to be in my house before the curfew finish, and you can only leave my house after the curfew is open. So after the decolonization, our generation that came after, we thought that there was a normal thing. But that is not our culture. We had to adapt to the situation we were. Like African people, they don't write. That is not true. That is another cultural imposition. Because when you live in colonization, one of the main things is you need to divide to conquer, and you need to keep them illiterate, which they have no access to study. So yes, we as Africans, we always have the culture to listen to the old people, telling stories about their life, but also people need to understand that Africa is a continent that always had people outside coming and taking over. Before Europeans, you had Arabs that colonized us. So we had to adapt into other people's culture. When Roman went to Egypt, the first thing they did, they destroyed the library. Why? Because then they can rebuild the history the way they want. So all these affect the way we perceive the dance, and it has an influence the way we dance also. So how I perceive it is the main common thing between all those countries that were colonized by Portuguese was the Portuguese influence in terms of couple dance. But then we create our own identity into the dance. And then when we move into Portugal, Kizomba become identity because there was how we as Palop could share something we like and be together. So I know it's a long thing I explained, but just so people understand that being born in Guinea or Mozambique or something, it's very normal or common for you to also be raised dancing when it's Kizomba today.
Kizomba, Passada. Yes. And then you mentioned that the partner dance, I guess, idea came from Portugal because it's a country.
Idea came from European. I don't believe it came from Portugal. Because doing research, the oldest dance I've heard couple dance was actually waltz. I'm still searching for anything coming from Africa that could show us partner dance before the era. Because after that you can see the influence that he had in all dances, all other countries that were colonized by any European country, like Cuba. Song, it's a partner dance, and if you watch people dancing song, you will see the same fundamentals, side to side. They may do it side to side differently, because we never went to any school to learn how to dance. It's how we perceive the dance, and then we create our own identity.
Okay, so the one question I ask all my interviewees, of course, is, do you think that urban kids is a separate dance from Kizomba?
Definitely.
Okay, now we are getting into urban kids, which is like out of scope of this video. Now let's go ahead and see what Eddy says in this website of his. And now this was updated on 3rd of August 2017. So I see many debates on well, let me just highlight what I'm reading here. So I see many debates, conversation online about Passada. I can see many people don't always know the difference between, but in fact, because of this confusion, there's a war between Cape Verdean and Angolan teachers trying to prove that. Yeah, all right. So what is Passada? What is the difference between Passada and Kizomba? Did Passada come from Cape Verde or Angola? This poses an explanation about the difference between my theory about Kizomba in Angola versus Passada from other Palop countries. Before the word Kizomba was adopted by Angolans in the 80s, most Palops used to refer to it as Passada, including many Angolans, by the way. So so even Angolans danced Passada in addition to Semba. So that's what I understand through this. So Passada, say for example, let's let me search for Palop if it shows up. Palop. Palop countries. Nah. Okay. Okay, just for our understanding sake. So here, all these, what is this? Okay, so all these countries, so this is Cape Verde, this is, I believe, Guinea-Bissau, I'm not sure what this is, this I guess is Angola, and I'm not sure what this is, sorry about it guys. So all these countries were dancing, what, not able to write with this thing, Passada, and only Angola was dancing Kizomba. Okay, so where is that? So it says this as like universal basics, side to side traveling and 360-degree rotation. Okay, these are the basics I believe came from the European dance called waltz, dating back to the 16th century. I've continued to search for any information I can find out a partner dance from Africa pre-slavery. Okay, the same thing that he mentions in that video. So now let's get back in time to understand how these units will be spread all around the world. Or that is out of scope of this video. You know, back to the dance today, many Africans feel proud. Mostly these basics are brought to the Palop countries. They were the ones calling it why it's common. Okay, each Palop country pursued the movement in different, but none of them really embraced it like Angolans, Cubans, Dominicans, Brazilians, or Argentinians. Okay, these countries took those basics and created an identity that represents their country and their history. Okay, now let's fast forward to 80s and 90s. Palops are now facing the need to immigrate to the country of their former colonies in search of a better life. Why? Because the fine in the 80s, Lisbon was full of Palop immigrants, and all those African immigrants had something in common, love for Zouk and compa. Okay, it was from that common music that clubs were created at Palops who could all dance together, because we all knew Passada, nothing more than those three basics I mentioned. It wasn't until we saw Angolans in these immigrant means we first saw someone doing something more with those basics. Saidas, changing directions, far more fluid. It is still using those same basics we all knew. Like always, we adapted into this more technical dance, and we embraced naturally the evolution of our basics we then call Passada. Till today, even if you go to some Cambodian parties, you will not see more than three basics plus what we call retroceso. So easily, Cambodians, Mozambique and Guineans can claim that before Kizomba they had Passada and belongs to also to them. They are right, but Semba and Kizomba is the evolution of Passada with the Angolan identity. Everyone today applies Saida or more technical steps to their Passada. That is not Passada anymore, but Kizomba. Okay. Now, I partially agree with what Eddy says here, except that, say for example, now what he is saying is all these Palop countries, okay, they were dancing Passada, but Angolans, they had more evolved it into a more technical thing called as Semba. Now, my question here is, if this is the case, why even now, when Cape Verdeans, when they dance Kizomba and when they dance Semba, right, there is a difference, there is a gap, as we already saw. So if you have seen videos of say for example, we'll watch another video where let's watch this video. So as we saw here, earlier we saw Tony Pirata dance Kizomba as well. Obviously he knows Semba as well, but he doesn't dance Kizomba the way he dances Semba. Forget about like I'm saying like he doesn't dance Kizomba as a slowed down as a paced down Semba. He dances Kizomba totally differently. Now why is that? Maybe because to the Cape Verdeans, Kizomba is a totally different dance. It's not like a slowed down Semba, because Cape Verdeans probably improvised basics of Passada and created their own version of Passada that is a bit advanced than what is being danced in other Palop countries, but they were still calling it as Passada because they didn't have a reason to call it anything else, right? That is a possibility. Now what I'll tell you guys what I mean here. Let's see. So on a technical scale, like 1 to 10, okay, so let's say this is 2 Passada, 2 or 3, I don't mind, like this is 8 Semba, and this is like say 5 Kizomba. Or Passada improvised. Now what I'm trying to say is Passada had only the 3 basics, right? Now I don't know when this was introduced to the Palop countries. That is a question mark. Year is a question mark. We don't know that. But all of these Palop countries have been dancing Passada, and Angolans somehow evolved this into another highly technical dance called Semba, and I believe it is been there in existence since 1950s. So which means Passada must be pre 1950s definitely, but how old nobody knows. Now what I'm trying to say is, say out of these Palop countries, right, Cape Verde, like they also were dancing Passada, but then they kind of like improvised it, okay, and then added some say coladera or whatever. They and then gave rise to this Kizomba, not Kizomba, Passada, but they were still calling it Passada because they didn't have any reason to change it. It's just Passada because they were also dancing other dances, and then they didn't bother to change its name. Now just because they are also dancing Passada doesn't mean they were dancing at the same technical level as it was introduced. Now, say it was introduced at level 2, technical level. Now, these Cape Verdeans or whoever, Mozambique or Guinea-Bissau or whoever, like they could have improvised it and then added more steps without any influence from Semba. And they could have like created their own version of Passada, which is a little bit more advanced than the original Passada. Now, if I do that, like if I'm from a country where they dance Passada, and if I like kind of like create my own, I try to kind of improvise and have my own moves and add some saidas. I don't know, because saida is again a Portuguese term; it's not an Angolan term, right? And so I wouldn't bother changing its name. It is going to be Passada. Yeah, why would I bother to change the name? Now, Eddy is kind of like painting Passada with a kind of a different picture, saying that this is just a basic dance and it's not technical. And there's one more thing that that I want to point out here. So if you see these Cape Verdeans, they dance both Semba and improvised Passada, right? So maybe to them Semba is even though it is technical, it's a totally different dance, and they don't want to add any more technicality into the improvised Passada, because that would change the whole energy or what do you call it, the fluidity of the dance, if I can say that. So they deliberately didn't employ any kind of highly technical steps as we saw the other day earlier. This what was that? Okay, sorry. Yeah, the other day we were looking at different aspects of the Cape Verdean Passada and this Angolan Kizomba, right? So maybe I'm saying it was deliberate on the Cape Verdeans part to not make it look like Semba, because to them it has always been a totally different dance. Now, it is just my theory. I don't know if it was the case. I don't know if it was something else. I'll just like I'm just putting it out there so that if anyone watches this video, please leave a comment and let me know. And also, I have like one request to you guys. Please let me know if you are from any of the PALOP countries, any of these PALOP countries. Where am I? My mouse is okay. So if you're from any of these PALOP countries, please let me know like the history of Passada. What year Passada was introduced to your country? Like how long? Like when was the last time? When was the first time you remember dancing Passada? Because I tried to find some information about this on the internet, I couldn't find. So I'm just like putting it out there so that if anyone watches it, please let me know. This would be very, very helpful for my research on this In Search of Kizomba series. Thanks a lot, guys, for watching. I'll see you in another video. This is JDP signing off. Bye.